this is actually the so-called conservative Republican never-Trumpers. You've brought us into the subject that is really at the heart of the never-Trumper Republican crowd, and it's this: that he wants America to be a manufacturing, industrial country, and they are tied to the cheap labor and cheap products.
That really China. Is it. That is at the very heart of it. Not just the financially, but a lot of power brokers are tied to China. Yeah. They get their money from China. I heard who's that guy's name? Dwayne Johnson, The Rock. He came out against Trump because he gets paid by China. His market in China is bigger than it is in America. And a lot of sports people.
Yeah, I was reading in it's the I don't know if you get it, but the Hillsdale College publication in Primus. And okay, so Jason Whitlock, sports columnist, was delivered a speech or something like that, and so they adapted his speech for print, and he was discussing how the NBA is practically just, Nike practically owns the NBA. The NBA is more like the marketing arm of Nike, and Nike is so tied deeply with China that China runs the NBA for all intents and purposes. And that's why you've got these players who are just absolutely not going to do anything to make their Chinese overlords unhappy.
Yeah, exactly. Look, Nike is anti-American. They have been for a long time. And by extension, so is the NBA.
Anybody Chinese is anti-American. Here's the other thing. I don't know how many people really quite realize this. China is not just anti-American. The Chinese government really believes, look at what America has done. When America goes and gets involved in other parts of the world that we shouldn't be involved in. Okay, yeah, there's a lot of it that's involved in business and that kind of stuff, but geopolitically, we're out there trying to get other places to work the way we work. We go to Iraq, Iran, and so on and so forth. It's like, hey, guys, set up a democracy. Run yourselves this way. No, we have no business doing that, okay, in these other places. They've got to figure it out for themselves. But we're never out to say, let's establish a permanent puppet government so that you'll be under American control. Let's just make you an arm of America, and you take your orders from our Congress, and we'll set up your laws and so on and so forth.
Yeah, we don't never colonize.
Do that. It's always we try to get them to do things the way we do, which again is inappropriate. But I don't know how many people realize the Chinese government has as its goal to be specifically in charge of the entire world. China wants to rule the world with one government, theirs. Not just everybody work like China and act like China and be like China. They want everybody to be China.
And I don't think most people understand quite how bad it is there. It's a communist regime in every sense of the word. Every person is a ward of the state.
It's that you can go back to all the 50s and 40s paranoia literature and propaganda films about what it means to live under Chinese rule, and the worst exaggerations of those doesn't even quite convey how bad it really is.
I don't think, it's weird how people don't get that.
And I think too few people realize that.
I mean, everything you do every day under communist rule, you wouldn't do that. Anything that you take joy in, you wouldn't have that. Things are getting a little tight because of COVID. Well, I think I might start doing this for money and maybe open up a branch here and try to pull in money this way. I couldn't do that under a communist regime. I do exactly every day.
Everybody out there, all you liberals out there, okay, our listeners probably aren't liberals. But, maybe some of you could go play our podcast for a few liberals, at least this part. All of you liberals out there who somehow have gotten the idea that Trump is out to be like a dictator or something like that. When you're out writing your articles accusing Trump of being dictatorial and saying how much of a Nazi he is and how much he, wants the government to be, run like Nazis and so on and so forth, do you even for 1 second while you're writing your article look over your shoulder and think, oh my gosh, should I actually press send? I mean, are they going to descend on me? Do I need to worry about what's going to happen to my family? You know what? In China, people do have that.
Yeah, nobody writes against Xi. I mean, you die if you do that. You get killed.
Yeah, I mean, the people who are doing that are
There's
very
not
underground.
even a trial or anything. You're just killed.
Or disappeared into a prison somewhere or whatever.
The Gulag. Go back to Russia and Anyway, but my thought is, what if he's okay with? This is terrible to say. I don't think it actually happens this way. But what if he's okay with a lot of people being out of work for the purpose of providing workers so that we can start to manufacture again? Maybe that's a stretch.
What if that's just a providential side effect of the bad decisions by all these governors?
Yeah. Well,
let's go ahead and accept that for what it is. Okay, it's bad, and the governors are responsible for the losses of livelihoods that have resulted. But if the end result is to turn America back into a solid nation industrially, then that's Providence bringing good out of bad.
Another thing with the spending is that I don't know enough about economics to really talk on this, but I remember since I was a kid, everybody complaining about the Federal Reserve, about how we don't have gold backing the dollar, things like that.
Yeah, a lot of that's like the what's his name who was
Condit.
James Condit was big on Jim Condit was big on that. But no, I'm thinking about there was a politician in the last couple decade or so who was like that, talking a lot about that. Was Pat Buchanan in that camp too? Yeah, I mean, a lot of that really is that kind of misses the point. That's kind of a red herring economically. That the whole gold backing thing and whether it's backed and that kind of stuff.
I sometimes wonder though, because Trump has for a long time talked about the fact that China can manipulate the U.S. dollar. And he's been complaining about this for 30 years. And I sometimes wonder if he's okay with the spending because he knows that eventually, everybody predicts with all this spending, it's going to become a problem eventually. It's going to crash something. I don't understand how that works. But I wonder if he's of the mind that it's okay that it crashes while I'm on guard because I'll rebuild it the right way.
Could be, but here's the danger of that. So for the government, in order to spend money, it has to get the money somehow. And predominantly, a healthy government gets its money through taxes and spends what it has. Okay. But when a government is engaged in deficit spending, like think back towards World War II and World War One, even, that kind of stuff. What does the government do? They issue what are called bonds. Okay. And a bond is an instrument that says, okay, we're going to, you give us $50 now, and over the course of the next 30 years, your bond instrument will increase by a certain percent each year. And if you wait long enough, 30 years, then that bond will now be worth, let's say, $100. And so you can turn it back in and take your $100. So that's how the government spends money. It has to somehow acquire the money as debt. Now, what's the problem? And this is where, maybe you could step in, a president, or not by himself, but, with the right laws, could step in and keep this from happening. But what's going on is a lot of these bonds are being bought by China. And that's the danger. So what happens is, as we spend more and more and more, and then eventually we have to pay back that spending plus interest, but who do we owe it to? We owe it to other governments often. Now, that was once a concern. I mean, that was a concern, as I heard it described to me back in the 80s. Okay. I don't know whether the structure of stuff is still that way today, whether there have been some safeguards put in place to keep that from happening or not. But that's, as I understand it, the really big concern. Now, in terms of and that's what they call the national debt, the debt that our government treasury owes to other entities. Now, to the extent that the bonds are sold only to Americans, well, then our government simply owes us that national debt. It's not quite as big a deal then.
Yeah.
And the better our economy comes, the better the government is able to pay that debt back. Debt back. Debt back. Debt back.